It's been a while since I've done one of these anatomy videos. I've just been really busy with work and Discord and the DVD stuff and scrap trap recreation stuff, and trying to currently rig up the PlayStation 5 with a capture card to go through OBS so my avatar can show, and that's been a mess. So I think I finally got everything straightened out and ready to go, as long as work doesn't get in the way. That said, I'll be doing the liquor from the Resident Evil 2 remake. Now, I'm not 100% sure, but I think this is the same model they used in Resident Evil Requiem. I think they look really similar. Requiem might have a slightly more HD version, but I think it's either the same model or close to the same model. So let's get the obvious out of the way. They are called liquors for a reason. I think I saw at one time from Roanoke that his channel got demonetized because of the word liquor. Just curious. I had to do some research because I'm not. Well, I really am into like the Resident Evil lore and like all the games. I wasn't entirely sure where the liquor came from, and I think it's just a mutation of a T virus zombie. So you get infected, you become a let me rephrase that. You get infected by the T virus, you become just your basic normal everyday zombie, and then it mutates as Resident Evil viruses often do, and the zombie mutates into a liquor. Now, the T virus kind of causes usually skeletal and muscular growth, which is where you get like Mr. X. The tyrants, I think, are mostly from yeah, I think most of the tyrants, or I should say a majority of the tyrants, are from the T virus infection, where you get like Mr. X. Nemesis is a unique one where I believe they took a T-103 and implanted the NA parasite inside of it, and then that's where Nemesis came from. And then, of course, you have like the G virus, which was Birkin. The G virus causes like insane, uncontrolled cellular regrowth and mutation, which is how we got Birkin into whatever he turned into. So I don't. Now this is a ripped. This is ripped from Resident Evil 2. So this is the actual model. Things like this in their T-pose is very special. Yeah, it's animated and it's bone and rigged. Bone and rigged, oh my god. It's rigged and skinned for animation. So it's got a very long, veiny tongue. This is special. I don't remember the spikes being here, but I also did my best in the game to never like instigate a fight with a liquor. They were just ammo sponges. But that explains, because if I remember right, they can decapitate you, and that explains a lot right there. Look at how long that thing's tongue is, and interesting. Like you don't really see the whole thing in the game because it's always moving. It's curled or it's pulled back. I don't think there's a time in the game where you actually see the entire thing out, but that's what, 4 or 5 times its body length. I kind of wish I could. If I taken it into ZBrush, but I don't really want to mess with ZBrush right now because I have everything set for Scrap Trap. I don't want to have to deal with like resetting everything. So if it was in ZBrush, I could probably hide the tongue. Well, I'll just make do. So second most obvious thing, or I can't put obvious in, I guess, categories because everything on this thing is obvious. The brain. Pretty much the skull deteriorated, the brain blew out. Now the brain is, what, 2-3 times bigger than it should be for a human. No eyes, no nose. And as anyone who's played the game knows, that while they're blind, they are not deaf. They have extremely good hearing. try to get the light here to work with me. I don't know why I said that in a sing-song voice. Now, how it detects sound, I'm not sure. It doesn't have ears. It doesn't look like it has ears anyway. So how it detects sound is, I'm sure there's an explanation with the brain being this big, like. I never noticed the neck doing this before either. So the teeth, long, curved, elongated, all over the place. Kind of poking through the tongue. But that might just be the pose, because you can move it down. If I remember right, liquors were also like Umbrella's most popular BOWs. That or the T103s, which I can't remember if Mr. X was a T103 or a T101. I should have probably looked this up before starting the video. You see the jaw, very humanish jaw. Flesh is stretched, trying to keep it attached to the skull. What's left of the skull. I think. Yeah, oh yeah. It's really hard to see unless you're right up on it. It does have a nasal cavity. Right there. It's hiding under this band of flesh. Which I've never, like, you would never notice that in game. So it's like the whole skull has been re-angled. This is angled, it should be up and down, because there's the nasal cavity right there. I believe that's the larynx. I'll have to look that up. I think that's the larynx popping out. As you can see, like, this muscle should be straight. It's the one that goes from, like, the back of the head down to the clavicle, which I won't be able to do much because the light's on top. I might be able to get to the front. Almost. You can see it right here. The clavicles are sticking up. Here's the end of it. And it goes down here. And then you have the pecs, the shoulders. But the neck is it's bent at a curve, which is very interesting. Okay, hold on. That's the clavicle. This might take me a minute to figure out. Because the spine is very obvious. The spine is arcing up. Yeah, the spine, the back of the ribs. And then it's strange because you can see the neck. Like the vertebrae go straight into the back of the skull instead of curving down and going with the neck. Which in Resident Evil BOW is like, you don't have to know, like, logic. But the spine's coming up, and then it just shoves into the back of the neck, so I wonder if it's got like a second spine or... I think it's just a cavity in there. They wouldn't have, like, a lot with, like, Springtrap, you wouldn't really model, like, inside. Because you would never see the inside of this. So I don't think there's anything in there, it's just a cavity. Yeah. Which just begs the question of, I mean, again, it's a umbrella BOW. So you see the larynx, the muscles. Now it could also partly be the pose, which is also very possible. That the pose is making the neck look that way, where the spine is like shoved into the back of the skull instead of going down. Because these things do sit closer to the floor than what this one is. It's arced up, so without seeing it in like the sitting pose, it's harder to. Can I? I don't think this one's rigged, or it's not animated in this. Bones. Yeah, well, I don't think it's animated. I can't explain it. It could be the pose. It could just be like a thing of like suspend your disbelief. Not that you would ever like see it like from this angle, but I would really like to know. The shoulder blades have. That's interesting. Let's see. I'm trying to get the light to work with me. So the spine's pulled up. The rib cage is pulled with it. All the flesh on the upper back is gone. Interestingly, though, the shoulder blades have popped up. Now, normally, oh, that's good, because you can see the that's the scapula. You can see the you can almost see the connection between these two, which is correct. This is correct, but it looks like the shoulder blade has been flayed open, where like it's unfurling from the body, like they're just barely holding on with a few tendons and strips. If anything, I don't know if anything's actually connecting them other than this connection down here, because it's almost off the body completely. It looks like it's also forming kind of like a shield to help protect this area. The way it's come up and like over a little bit. It looks like the entire torso has elongated too. See, this would almost be like a withered zombie, like very lean, and then it elongated, arced up, and then muscle just started like reforming all over like the chest, the arms. Which these things like crawl on the ground really fast, but they also leap, and then they can stick to ceilings and crawl around on ceilings, so it makes sense that their limbs would be so muscular. Which would also explain, which actually that might explain the neck, because it would have to have like a good deal of power to launch and control this tongue. So if that's correct and it's going straight into the back of the skull, then this would just be like pure muscle. All of this down here would just be like pure muscle, and I guess it would be used to launch the tongue out and then control it. And that makes a little more sense. Which trying to make sense out of a lot of game characters can be very difficult, but at the same time, if you have people who know how to do monster creation or monster designs, they will always, usually they will always try to get the creatures to be as realistic and anatomically plausible as possible. So in huge shoulder muscles, huge biceps, huge triceps, the whole arm. Now, the hands, because interestingly enough, not much has changed in the actual arm. Like this, if this is all anatomically correct for a human, like everything from the tendons to the muscle to ligaments. This is all correct. Up until you get into this, and then it turns into a mess. And then down here. But the arm, that's fully human. It's just, it looked like the T virus just encouraged a lot of muscular growth in that area. Controlled muscular growth, unlike the G virus in Port William. Bergen. I gotta be careful when I say William. Now the hands are very interesting. You still have a thumb, what's left of a pinky, the ring finger. Wait, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 5. Thumb, pinky, ring finger, middle finger, and pointer finger. It also still kind of, if you look at your hand, it still has kind of like an arch to it. Not this exaggerated, but you will have kind of like a smooth arc if you have all your fingers together. This is super exaggerated because the pointer finger is way out here, and the pinky is almost non-existent. It's almost refused into the hand to where it doesn't even have a claw. Like, it's useless. But this would also, because this is, I guess, how they primarily grip onto like walls and ceilings, and in close combat. Again, I tried to avoid it, but I believe they will still whip you with their tongue first, and then jump on you and try to slash you as like a second or last resort, which that's lethal. It still has all the same knuckles too, so again, instead of like adding extra knuckles, it just elongated what was already there. Back, the hip bone. Now, interesting, along with the hands, the position of the legs, because these things sit so low to the ground, it almost has like a frog-like appearance. They almost look like frog legs, as is, but when they're on the ground, it's much more noticeable. Something between like a frog and a lizard, and they almost run the same way. It's very fast, but it looks very uncanny since they run on all fours. You can see the tailbone, the glutes, which are stretched out. See underneath the pelvis. Looks like there was something there. But you can also see kind of where a separation of muscle is starting to happen in the legs, or that might be a tendon. No, I think that's a muscle. I don't know why it's stretched so far, and it's almost like popping off. The thighs. The calves are blown out. The leg. See the kneecaps. No, from the... I think their feet out of their limbs have really mutated the most. It's hard to say, and again, I tried to avoid these things. They're just bullet sponges. I think the leg or the feet have turned from plantigrade to digitigrade, where they walk on the balls of their feet, and then here's the arc, and it comes up, which is also how they jump and run so fast. Now, they only... Okay, I just lied. I was gonna say they only have 4, but no, there is a 5th toe over there. So you technically have 5 toes. Only 4 of them are functional. There is one itty bitty tiny toe right there on the side. It's almost completely reabsorbed into the body. And I think it's got a... Yeah. It's got a tiny little claw on it. But it's almost impossible to see. You got your... Now, these are more evenly and spaced out. But considering how they jump, I kind of expect that, because it needs kind of a balance to launch itself. Also very sharp claws, also useful for digging into stuff when crawling around on ceilings and walls. The Achilles tendon is very big and thick, which again, because it runs and jumps like it does, I would expect that. cute little tailbone. I don't know what it is with these monsters and having tailbones, because DBD William also has a tiny little tailbone edge sticking out. You see kind of a separation of muscle here, too. Now, what it looks like probably happened was when it was mutating and like elongating and stretching. I believe the connection is right. Like, this does connect to this part, but when it shifted, like, it pulled the muscle away from the rest of them. I see the blown out muscles here, the muscles here. And interestingly, on the back, you can definitely see where they actually connect to the vertebrae. You can see the striations, you can see how they connect to each vertebrae. That's really cool. That's a good detail. Nothing in there. These are blown out. Now, these, I think, have been blown out for a combination of wall climbing and neck control, because there's probably also a lot of weight in this area because of the tongue. I'd add to kind of like the armor. It does look like the hip bone is being enlarged, which, again, considering the muscle that's attached, it would have to be larger. But it also looks kind of like the bone is acting as a type of armor to protect this in here. Again, you can see this, the muscle striations as they connect to the bone. Again, that's really cool detail. So the liquor is kind of like the perfect example of taking something that's human and turning it into something that's not. Now, to be fair, they did evolve, or they mutated from zombies, which were obviously created from humans. I believe in some of the movies they've got different, I don't want to say species, it's variants of liquor. Like, there's an aquatic liquor, which, Nightmare Fuel. And then you have these, which I think are like B variants or something. And they come in different types and different variants depending on what I guess they mutated from. These are the most common as far as I'm aware, and probably the most mass-produced by Umbrella. But you can see so much of the human in it that it's very unsettling. But there's enough of it there that's been shifted, changed, and deformed to make it to kind of hit that uncanny valley, especially around the back and the head. And then when you add in the motions of it crawling around on walls and ceilings, just adds to it. But yeah, that's the liquor. So thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe, like, leave a comment, and if there's any other creatures you want to see, let me know.